On Tech News Today, Sony Pictures employees are suing the company. Plus, the Sony Pictures hack revealed new details about Snapchat. And Apple closes its online store in Russia. We'll tell you why. Stick around. Tech News Today is next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, December 17th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Braintree. If you're a developer or manager of a mobile app and searching for the right payments API, check out Braintree. Braintree's new V.0 SDK makes it easy to support multiple mobile payment types with one simple integration. To learn more and to try out their sandbox, go to braintreepayments.com/twit. And by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you'll have many more happy holidays as you grow and protect your wealth with this award-winning financial app. Best of all, it's free. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan, and good morning, Jason Cleanthes. How you doing, man?
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You're fast on the draw this time. I like that. It's all that coffee that we have in the break room. It always helps. Well, our thing of the day today is something of a surprise. Almost out of nowhere, President Obama announced steps today to normalize relations with Cuba for the first time since 1961. The process will include the establishment of a U.S. embassy in Havana, and only 5% of Cubans currently have access to the internet, and only about 5% of Americans have access to Cuban cigars. The announcement came as part of the news that Cuba had released from prison an American named Alan Gross, who was arrested there 5 years ago for trying to bring internet access to a few Cubans. And Jason, you've been to Cuba before. I think you have some vacation photos that you were showing us before the show started.
Yeah, I do. Let me show you them real quick here.
Okay.
This was the last time I was there. It was about 1989 or 90. I can't remember exactly. And you'll see why I can't remember.
It was a cruise ship then.
Yeah, exactly. I was on board the USS Wasp going through shock trials right outside Guantanamo Bay. And we did that for about 2 months, which is a fun vacation. Everybody should do it.
Yeah, and of course, there's the reason to do such exercises right there next to Cuba, of course, is to remind the Cubans that the Gulf of Mexico and the surrounding waters in the Atlantic is an American lake. All right, well, interesting news, and I'm personally in favor of it. I think that this whole relationship with Cuba has gone on far too long. Yeah, I think the point was made probably by the 70s. so it's about time that we normalize relations with Cuba. And it's going to be great welcoming all those people in Cuba to the internet for the first time, if that happens. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen overnight. Right now, there's internet access, but it costs probably about half the average Cuban's monthly salary just to get on for like 20 minutes or something like that. So it's sort of a luxury for the extremely relatively wealthy people in Cuba. Anyway, let's jump into the news. 2 former employers are suing Sony Pictures Entertainment for failing to protect their personal data. After the company was hacked, terabytes of data was leaked online, including personnel records. The proposed class action lawsuit was filed Monday in a Los Angeles federal court. A lawsuit said the hack is, quote, an epic nightmare, much better suited to a cinematic thriller than to real life, and is unfolding in slow motion for Sony's current and former employees, unquote. Ian Sherr is executive editor for CNET and joins us now. Hey, Ian, how you doing? He sounds muted to me, or he has a very quiet voice. How you doing, Ian?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what employee data was leaked exactly?
Unfortunately, a lot of it. So just to be clear, it was it's gigabytes of data so far that have been released and terabytes that have said to have been stolen.
Good point.
So right now, what we've seen is basically a lot of health records. We've seen salaries. We learned a lot about how Sony pays their employees. And also a lot of emails, which is very embarrassing, especially for the executives who have seen their inboxes basically opened up in public and written about it to great length. So it's been really hard. The employees, particularly who are not executives and not paid like executives, are being treated like them. When you look at the healthcare information that's in there, there are some healthcare docs that include stuff like how the children's medical problems, and it's really tough. And so the 2 employees say that Sony mismanaged basically their information and should have been a lot more knowledgeable about it. If you remember, Sony was hacked back in 2011, their PlayStation Network. And so these employees say Sony should have known better than what happened. And so despite the fact that I believe it was the FBI said that 90% of companies could not have protected from this type of hack, these employees or former employees believe that they should have been able to and so have sued.
Yeah, more specifically, the lawsuit actually says that they knew or should have known that such a security breach was likely.
Right.
Not that it was possible, but likely.
Yeah.
Do you think that, putting on your lawyer hat for a minute, do you think that is the kind of thing that's going to hold sway in court to say that, a hack is likely and that a company should be able to know that it's coming and then protect against it?
Well, let's look at it from a different angle, right? If you talk to a lot of security experts, I think most of them agree now that there are two types of companies in the world, those that have been hacked and those that know it. And the reality is that the internet has become an incredibly dangerous place. It always has been, but especially for companies. If you look at the rise of state-sponsored hacking, especially with stuff like Stuxnet that happened to the Iranians, we've got these large and growing hacker armies that are being run by the Chinese government and by all sorts of other places, Syrian Electronic Army, all of these things are happening. And so on top of all the hacking that happened before, so what does this mean? Well, should they expect hacking? Yeah, of course. I mean, that's why they have security in the first place. But, at one point, it's hard to say that this company should have seen this particular hack come and how it would play out. But, I mean, whether or not it would hold legal sway is really, I think, up to a jury, and which the two former employees want. They want a jury trial. And also, it's up to whether or not you can really convincingly say that, the company mismanaged the information. It's not just that they should have known this hack was coming, but that they didn't take the right steps internally to protect information, even if someone gets in. And that's important to note because a lot of the popular things going on in corporate America these days are to try and actually separate out a lot of the information, protect it with a thing called encryption, where you're basically jumping all the data. And those types of things are what could really help. And also, if they can prove Sony wasn't doing that, we don't know, then they could start to have maybe a harder argument and a better argument than just simply saying they should have known and they should have protected, right? But this is all what we're going to learn during the trial.
There is some incriminating or circumstantial evidence in the form of quotes by an executive, I believe, who was quoted in CIO magazine in 2009 as saying that it's not worth spending $1 million or $10 million to protect against a $1 million hack. And so far, the number for this hack has been put at about $100 million, which is probably a low ball. But that kind of quote in a prominent business publication is not going to help them in court.
It certainly won't.
Yeah, especially if there's a jury. It sounds like they're very cavalier about it. What's interesting to me about this is that the precedent it might. I mean, clearly, I think that it's reason. I mean, if an employee leaks the information, employees and companies have each other's information, right? So if an employee leaks the information or does something irresponsible that enables the company's information to get out in the wild, that employee is going to be fired and probably sued. Now, it should go the other way as well. When the company allows the employee's information to get out in the wild, they should be able to be sued as well, I think, theoretically.
Well, that's what's happening, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly what you're seeing. This is the process working its way out. And I mean, Sony, I will guarantee you, was prepared for a multitude of lawsuits that could come their way as a result of this. They have to be. And that's just what part of the process is. And part of it is that there needs to be a formal way for Sony to be able to pay back these employees or pay for credit monitoring and whatnot. And oftentimes, if they don't have a package together quick enough, or if there are too many employees to count, then a lawsuit actually helps the process move forward. So it's actually part of the way things are supposed to work. It's not just kind of, this is very run of the mill. You would expect it.
Well, what we don't know is what will the outcome be of this lawsuit, whether the employees will win or not.
And how much money recompense, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the real question, is that if you can prove, for example, that Sony acted negligently, then you could end up winning a lot more, right? And I mean, we can look to other examples in corporate America where this was the case. If you look at the, for example, this is not connected at all, but the Apple trial that just ended yesterday, if the jury believed the plaintiffs, which they didn't, that Apple had acted with malice, then they could have won a lot more money than they were asking for. And so it's really about the mindset of Sony when this all happened, how much effort they put toward protecting things, and then what do they need to do to fix this. And that's really what they're going to be going over in the trial, probably.
To me, the biggest issue here is that as this goes forward, and assuming that the employees, that the plaintiffs win the case, this will set a precedent that will imply, I would imagine, that companies will now be required to do specific things or they'll be held liable. In other words, lawyers are going to be telling the CIOs that you have to do this list of things in order to protect the company from lawsuit.
But they're already doing that. They're already telling them what to do. I mean, lawyers, I mean, come on. In the last 20, 30 years, and especially since the corporate raiding that happened in the 80s, lawyers have had a huge voice in corporations and deciding how people act, and they have a huge impact on policy.
Lawyers do, yes, lawyers do, but but if it's mandated by a legal precedent, that's different because the specifics will be, they'll be specified. In other words, right now it's like do everything you can, do this, that, and the other thing. But if it's enshrined in law, it's going to be essentially be an anchor in time because of course there's always an arms race between companies and hackers. And if they say, oh, you have to have at least 10 gigabytes for this, that, and the other thing, well, 10 gigabytes in 3 years is going to be like 10 megabytes is today.
Absolutely, and that's part of I think why there haven't been hard rules set so far. Is that it's incredibly hard when it comes to technology to really pin anything down and say you must do this. I mean, if you look at it, California, that's part of what made the California law about requiring that there's a kill switch in phones such a monumental deal. Is that they really put a stake in the ground and said, okay, minimum requirement now, right? This is the seatbelt for your smartphone. You must have a kill switch. So it's really interesting.
It certainly is. And, Ian, the last time you were on this show, you were a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. You're now transitioned to CNET. How are you liking it there? And what do you do exactly? What does an executive editor at CNET News do exactly?
Yeah, the title sounds a lot better than what I do. So I'm loving it. I mean, part of the reason I came here was that CNET is trying to kind of focus a lot more on interesting and narrative journalism. I don't know if you saw, we came out with a magazine recently, which we launched on November 3rd, and we're going to have another issue coming out in March. And it's really exciting what we're trying to do here. I think that there's a lot of really interesting ideas. A lot of it is focused around writing really meaningful stories that aren't just following the pack. And I think that's going to be awesome. And part of the reason I came here. And then my job really is that I'm managing, it'll eventually be 6 people in this office, ranging from cybersecurity to wearables to the sharing economy to e-commerce and Google. So that's part of what I'm doing. And then I also still cover Facebook now. And so that's part of my life as well, is following the social world. So it's really exciting. It's really fun. I really think that CNET's got a lot of great ideas. I don't know if you know, but Connie Guglielmo, who was she covered Apple at Bloomberg. She was one of the top scoop getters back then. She's the editor-in-chief now. She came in March, and she's really ramping it up. And it's part of why I came on board. I really believe in her vision for all of this.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on this show. Ian Sherr is at cnet.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Ian Sherr with 2 R's at the end. Thanks again, Ian.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, if you have an opinion about the whole Sony Pictures hack and whether or not this lawsuit should prevail, send us email to tnt@twit.tv, and we want to hear all about it. In related news, the New York City premiere of The Interview has been canceled because of threats by the Sony Pictures hackers called GOP, or Guardians of Peace. The premiere was scheduled for tomorrow at Sunshine Cinema in Manhattan. Other theaters are also declining to run the movie. The group's Broken English Threat claimed they would, quote, clearly show it to you at the very time and places the interview be shown, including the premiere, how bitter fate those who seek fun in terror should be doomed to, unquote. Yeah, they need to work on the English there. The message also threatened a September 11th level attack in retaliation for the Seth Rogen and James Franco comedy. Well, in just a sec, we're going to have yet another story related to the Sony Pictures hack. But first, I want to tell you about Braintree. If you have an app and you need mobile payment solution, Braintree is the place to go because it's super easy, it's super secure, and it has all kinds of benefits that you are no doubt looking for in your payment solution. It supports Apple Pay, PayPal, Bitcoin, Venmo, all major credit and debit cards, and 130 global currencies. I didn't even know there were 130 global currencies. That's amazing. With the Braintree V.0 SDK, one small snippet of code, And you're all set up in less than 10 lines of code, and it takes less than 10 minutes to set it up. And if you want some help, don't worry, just give them a call, and they'll walk you through the integration. They're happy to do that. Braintree supports Android, iOS, and JavaScript clients, and they have SDKs in 7 languages, including Java, Python, Ruby, and a few others. Elegant code with clear documentation. As I said, only 10 lines of in-app code, which is amazing. And it's very secure. It's the most secure way to pay because they use tokenized payments, which is the right way to do it. We're always talking about all these hacks where the big retailers are hacked. Those hacks can only take place where there's no tokenized payments. Braintree gives you tokenized payments. The transaction goes right through to the financial company, and the merchant never gets anywhere near it. So it protects everybody from being hacked and from information and money from being stolen. So if you're searching for the right payments platform, check out the Braintree V.0 SDK today at braintreepayments.com/twit. Review their documentation. It's simple and concise. Play around in the sandbox and give Braintree a try with no commitment, and test your integration before going to production. After you integrate Braintree, the first $50,000 in transactions is fee-free. That's braintreepayments.com/twit. Leaked emails from the Sony Pictures hack have revealed that Snapchat has made company acquisitions not previously reported. For example, Snapchat CEO revealed to the Sony chief executive that Snapchat has acquired a QR scanning and iBeacon startup called Scan.me. More interestingly, the hack revealed that Snapchat acquired Virgins Labs, wow, which makes a video camera for eyeglasses. Some reports are saying that news of Snapchat's acquisition of a video chat startup called AdLive was also leaked by the Sony hackers, but in fact, AdLive announced the acquisition last year, and the announcement is still on their homepage. Facebook has started auto-enhancing photos uploaded through its iOS app. A slider control will also enable you to adjust light, clarity, shadow, brightness, and other attributes. Like the photo features introduced in Google Plus more than a year ago, you'll be able to revert to the original version of the picture at any time or preemptively disable the feature if you don't want automatic improvements. If it's anything like the Google Plus feature, you're going to want those improvements. It's really it really does improve the pictures. The Android version of the Facebook app will get out there in the wild sometime in the future, hopefully the near future. I would guess that it would be. Well, Apple stopped online sales in Russia because of wild fluctuations in the value of the ruble. The currency plunged yesterday in a record low against the dollar. And this is like really weird news. Essentially what's happening with the ruble is that first Russia was hit by oil prices. Their economy is far too dependent on oil. And with the glut of oil now and the declining prices, Russia's economy was hit hard. Then they suffered from economic sanctions as the result of their incursions and activity in Europe, including in Ukraine. Monday, the central bank in Russia raised interest rates to 17% from 10.5%, which caused panic. And now everybody's flipping out. The ruble is all over the map. And a lot of companies that sell luxury goods like the iPhone and even like, big luxury car makers are losing money when they sell stuff. So they're just going to stop selling things until the thing stabilizes. So very weird news. You can't buy Apple stuff in Russia today. Well, Sony announced an attachable display module that can turn regular glasses into Google Glass-like smart glasses. The module connects to a smartphone via Bluetooth and features a VGA-quality screen positioned in front of the user's right eye. Sony says the smart glasses are for sports, work, and entertainment primarily. They're going to release an SDK for it and look for other partners. Well, in just a sec, we're going to have some other news for you, but first I want to tell you about Personal Capital. You got a big New Year's resolution coming up. Why not resolve to use Personal Capital to get your financial house in order? It's super great. I use it myself. It's really fantastic because it takes the information that you already have out there somewhere in different websites, your bank, your 401k. The stuff is out there. It brings them all together into a single place where you can look at it with intuitive charts and graphs so you can really get an intuitive sense of what's happening with your money. And you can also find and eliminate mutual fund and 401k fees that are unnecessary or unnecessarily high. And you can also get rid of those hidden brokerage fees that may be costing you huge amounts of money when you add it all up. So why wait? Take control of your financial future and make one of your resolutions for 2015 to use Personal Capital and get your financial house in the best possible shape it can be in. To set up your free account, go to personalcapital.com/TNT. Personal Capital is free, and it's the smart way to grow your money. And we thank Personal Capital for their support of Tech News Today. Well, in other news, Norton, the security software company, is getting into the fashion business. Well, kind of, sort of. The company's partnering with Beta Brand to make a $150 pair of jeans that block RFID signals. Beta Brand is also looking to crowdfund an RFID blocking jacket. The jeans have already been funded, and they're expected to ship in February. A new clock lives in your browser and, as clocks tend to do, tells you the current time. But this clock, which is called the All the Minutes, is different. Instead of just displaying the hour and minute, it shows you tweets that specifically mention the current hour and minute. It was created by the Dutch media studio Moniker, which clearly has way too much time on its hands. Now, as you can see, if you're watching the video version, the tweets come up every 3 or 4 seconds for the entire minute. And when the minute changes, then the tweets start reflecting the new change. Very weird, and some of these made me laugh out loud, literally, because they were so. One that I saw said, "It's 9:29 and I'm feeling extremely heterosexual." Made me laugh. Sorry about that. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Kenneth Ojiki in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, who posted this picture on Twitter. He's watching on YouTube with his new Samsung HD 55-inch curved TV. And I believe this is the first time we've gotten a TNT fan of the day from Nigeria. So a shout out to you, Kenneth, and everybody watching or listening in Nigeria. We welcome you here, and post those pictures. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it. That is the Tech News Today. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on YouTube, just like Kenneth. Why not? Or you can choose another way to subscribe, twit.tv/TNT. Follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV, and please send us your thoughts and opinions to tnt@twit.tv. Or you can call us at 260-TNT-SHOW and leave a message. Don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.